Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to Connect Scholar. Thank you so much for giving us an amazing response on our live stream that was conducted a few days back. The link of that video is in the description box below. You can check it out after watching this video. Today we are going to discuss the remaining portion of research study designs. If you have yet not checked the part 1 of this video, you can click the I button on the top right corner of your screens. So today we are going to understand the analytical studies and experimental studies. We have previously discussed what are study designs, what are the 3 types of study designs, and what are the subcategories of those 3 types. I'll give you a short recap of what are study designs. So it is a structured plan that defines how you're going to conduct your entire research study, from your methodology till your data collection and data analysis. In the last video, we have also discussed all the types of descriptive studies. That's why today we will be only focusing on analytical studies and experimental studies. So the first one is analytical study. Analytical studies are observational studies designed to test hypotheses by finding associations between an exposure, which is also a risk factor, and an outcome or a disease or condition. The types of analytical studies are cohort study and case control study. Let's understand what is cohort study. A cohort means a group with a shared characteristics. We follow them over a time to see who develops the outcome, and this kind of study is completely observational. We do not provide them any intervention. The key features of cohort study are that we start with exposure, not with the disease, and we divide the participants into groups of exposed versus non-exposed. There are 2 types of cohort studies. First is prospective cohort, and the second one is retrospective cohort. In the prospective cohort, we start our study and we follow the participants in future. For example, smokers versus non-smokers followed for next 10 years to see that the participants of which group develop lung cancer. While in the retrospective cohort, we use past records. We check the exposure versus the outcome. For example, we collect hospital data from 2010 till 2020 of people who were smokers versus people who were non-smokers to observe which one of them in both groups developed lung cancer. Next is case control study. This is a type of study that compares people with diseases, which will be called cases, to people without diseases, which will be called controls, and we look for past exposures or risk factors in both the groups. So the direction of this kind of study is that we start with the outcome, which is the disease or condition, and we look back at the exposure or the risk factors that those participants went through. For example, does smoking increase the risk of lung cancer? So here, lung cancer is the disease or condition, but smoking is the exposure that we will be checking whether it was common in the case group or the control group. Process of case control study. First, you have to find the cases, which means the people who already have lung cancer. Second, you have to find your controls, which means the people without lung cancer. Third, you have to check the exposure history, ask both the groups about their past smoking history, and then number 4, compare both the groups. If smoking was more common in the group with lung cancer, which means in the cases, this kind of observation tells us or suggests that there is an association between smoking and lung cancer. The process of matching is used in the case control study. In matching, we select controls similar to cases in certain traits, which can be whether age or gender. The purpose of using this method is to make the cases and controls comparable, and this also improves the study efficiency. Let's understand the types of matching. There are 2 types of matching: individual matching or pair matching, and the second one is group matching or frequency matching. In individual matching, each case is matched with 1 or more controls. For example, a 45-year-old male case matched with a 45-year-old male control. In the group matching, overall distribution of traits is matched. For example, if 40% of cases are females, you have to make sure that 40% of controls are also females. Next is experimental study. In this kind of study, the researcher intervenes and not just observes. The term intervenes indicates that you provide a new therapy or a new drug or a new vaccine to half of your participants. The types of experimental study are randomized controlled trials, community trials, and field trials. Let's understand what is randomized controlled trial. An RCT is an experimental study in which participants are randomly allocated into 2 or more groups to compare an intervention with a control. Steps of RCT. First, you randomly assign participants into 2 groups. First group will be called intervention group and the second group will be called control group. Intervention group will be provided a new drug or vaccine, while the control group will be provided a placebo or a standard care or conventional drug or vaccine. The second step is that the intervention is applied on both the groups and we follow both the groups for the outcomes or results. Lastly, we compare the results of both groups to come to a certain conclusion. Blinding in RCT. Now, the process of blinding is used in RCT. There are 3 types of blindings: single blind, double blind, and triple blind. In the single blind, the participants don't know their groups. In double blind, the participants and the researchers both don't know which group is intervention group and which group is the control group. And in triple blind, the participants, researchers, and the data analysts, all 3 of them are unaware about the groups. This is done to avoid any biased results. Examples of RCT. Let's suppose your research question is, does a new toothpaste prevent dental caries better than regular toothpaste? And your study design has 200 children randomly divided into intervention group and control group. The intervention group is given the new toothpaste while the control group is given the regular toothpaste to use. Now you will follow them for 1 year and compare the dental caries between both the groups. If new toothpaste group has fewer cases of caries, that means your intervention is effective. Next is community trial. The unit of study or the target population in this kind of study is your community or a certain population living in a certain area. And an intervention is applied on a large scale in this kind of trial or study. The example of interventions in this kind of trial is fluoridated water, vaccination campaign, or anti-smoking programs. Now let's take an example of this kind of study: spraying insecticides in a town versus a neighboring town without spraying. This way, both the towns will be compared. Next is field trial. In this kind of study, your unit of study or target population are individuals or healthy people at risk. The purpose of this kind of study is that we test preventive measures before any disease develops in a certain area. And this type of trial is conducted in a real life setting, for example, schools, workplaces, villages, etc. The key difference between field trial and community trial is that field trial is conducted on individual level in school children or workers of a certain office, while community trial is conducted on a whole community living in a certain area. Thank you so much for watching our video. Our next video will be on sampling techniques. Make sure to follow all our social media platforms. We are also providing services like resume writing, medical content writing, research synopsis writing, research article proofreading, and more. You can contact us on our Instagram or LinkedIn page to avail any of these services. Make sure to like this video, comment down below, and share this video with your research enthusiast friends. Also subscribe to Connect Scholar. Thank you so much and Allah Hafiz.